Alright guys, how is it going? As promised, I am going to be doing my Mistweaver guide today. I was probably supposed to do it about last week. I've been a little bit lazy for a couple of reasons. Number one, honestly man, Mistweaver is not that good right now. And I haven't really played that class too much this expansion. And I keep trying it and I keep, thinking like maybe this is the week where these buffs finally stick and the class is going to be good, and it just ends up not being good, and it's just not fun right now. And it's kind of a shame that I feel this way on my rep pally when I'm raiding in classic. I'm pressing my buttons exactly the same as the other people in the raid, and they just don't do as much, so it's a little bit of a crappy feeling. But if there are Mistweavers out there and you want to learn a little something, I'm going to be honest, this is probably one of my least experienced guides I've ever made. A lot of the information that I'm going to be saying in this guide is probably based off like, previous expansions in terms of, how Mistweaver can be played and honor talents and things like that. Obviously, I'm not even close to the highest rated Mistweaver right now, but what I will say is I probably can get significantly higher on the Mistweaver. It's just not really worth my time or frustration right now with the tournaments coming up in about a month away. Every minute I spend on this class is a minute wasted from something that is more valuable for me to play. So that's kind of my philosophy on it right now. Even though I'm super low rated compared to what my other healers are, I do think that, I would probably be able to get close to what I am, if not the same, if not higher, because I always thought Mistweaver was a healer that I was actually pretty good at and enjoyed quite a bit. But yeah, so let's go and jump into it. This is the Mistweaver guide. Yeah. This is the list of things that I'm going to most likely be talking about in order today. So in case you want to skip through, if you don't want to watch the whole VOD. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is like where Mistweavers rank as a healer. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. Yeah, it's a rough one for Mistweavers. And the pros and cons of Mistweavers. There's not many pros. Let's just change this to pro and cons. There's maybe one pro. It's a funny class right now. So yeah, Mistweaver ranking is dead last. It is a very bad healer. It is. I don't know why I'm laughing so hard. It is a very bad healer right now. The reason why it's bad is because the way the game works right now is it's very fast paced. Generally speaking, there are no breaks in damage, which means you need a constant steady flow of healing. On top of that, there's really high bursts, and Mistweavers actually have a fantastic cooldown. Life Cocoon is really good right now, especially if you're playing Common Coalescence. Man, this life Cocoon is unbreakable, dude. It is just a steel vault. It will keep people alive, but the only problem is that it's on a minute 15 cooldown. And I feel like most of the time that doesn't really line up that well with people's burst. I mean, just from my experience, Death Knights can burst every minute. Frost or Unholy. Assassination Rogues are kind of always pumping. Sub Rogues can do goes every 20 to 30 seconds. BM Hunters are always pumping. Marksman Hunters I feel like they can burst very often. I don't know exactly how often they can burst. Shadow Priest do goes every 45 seconds. I'm just trying to think of other classes. So basically, it doesn't feel like that Life Cocoon lines up very well. Restore Revival, another really strong cooldown. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like it's enough. And the healing actually feels really good. If you're a Mistweaver and you could sit back there, Tom Brady in the pocket. I guess he's retired now. Patrick Mahomes in the pocket. If you guys don't get that, that's a football reference. All my nerds out there. He just won the Super Bowl. Just doing what you want, tossing out heals, not being interrupted, not being CC'd, not being attacked. You're gonna do fantastic. Like you're really gonna excel. As casted Mistweaver, by the way, but that just doesn't happen. Everyone knows, all it takes is just a gust of wind to start bothering this Mistweaver. He's got to run, he's got to cast, he gets kicked, like, they just start to fall apart. So I guess that's kind of what the cons are, is that all your heals are tied into this, bro. Like, imagine this being how you heal in an expansion where people die in 1 second, right? Like, you're basically just asking the team, like, hey, bro, you got a kick available? You want to kick this, bro? You want to kick that? You want to kick that? So, yeah, I would say one of the only pros right now on Mistweaver is if you decide that you can play a comp where you have good snap CC, where your team is doing a go, you could roll in, you could get the in cap, you can get the sweep, you can get, the sleep, you can get the sweep. You actually have a really strong 3 separate DR CC chain. It just feels like to me right now, you're not really able to take advantage of that. based on the fact that, you know, you have to expose your positioning, you might fall behind, you might get interrupted. I mean, it feels really hard to take advantage of that really strong snap CC. Another advantage that Mistweaver could have, and I think this is specifically good in solo shuffle, is you could play the fist weaving build. And the fist weaving build is all about you doing a ton of damage, which equates to doing a ton of healing, and dampening ramps up very quickly in solo shuffle, so that extra damage that you are able to do becomes very, very relevant. And I think in an uncoordinated environment, Fistweaver actually does better. Fistweaver does better in solo shuffle based on the fact that people aren't actually setting up kills on you perfectly or CCing you perfectly. I think that fist weaving is really bad when you get spam CC'd or you get attacked really hard in short scenarios, because you're obviously putting yourself in a really tough position. So that's my thoughts on the spec. It's in a really rough spot. So in terms of race right now, I'm not actually sure what is the best, but some of the races I think you could be Dark Iron, or dwarf, you know, whatever you would prefer to be. You could be night elf if you want to try and meld CC, get drinks. Human is actually bad. You shouldn't be human. I mean, you could technically be orc if you want an extra 5% stun reduction. I don't know how valuable that really is. You could be undead if you feel like you're getting feared. At the end of the day, I don't really think the race really matters. I do think that we live in a world where assassinations are kings. There's a lot of jungles on ladder. Ferals are good. And a Dark Iron Dwarf or Dwarf combination would absolutely be by far the best. If I played my Mistweaver more, I would spend the money, but there's just no reason. So in all my guides, I go over my add-ons. It's a really simple list. Big debuffs allows me to see debuffs easier on my teammates. Details is what I use to track damage and healing, things of that nature, CC, interrupts, whatever. Nameplate buffs is my nameplate buff add-on. Shocker, I know, nameplate buffs. Allows me to see important buffs over my enemies' heads. Omnibar is how I see my enemies' cooldowns. Omni CD is how I see my friendly players' cooldowns. S Arena is my enemy unit frame tracker, which allows me to see the DR and move it very easily. And then weak Rs are obviously the most important part of the game right now. If you ever need weak Rs, I don't. Oh, actually, excuse me, I do have Mistweaver weak Rs specifically. But if you ever need weak Rs, come to my stream, type in exclamation WA. But I would say the main weak Rs I have for my monk right now are the Vivify weak R, which is actually very nice. It shows you when you have a instant Vivify proc and how long it will take until it resets. And this is really nice because you want to be using those instant Vivifies to try and avoid casting as much as possible. I have my 3 fist weaving weak Rs here, which shows me when I have my fist weaving available. So the one in the middle is when I have my Teachings of the Monastery up, is that what it's called? Ancient Teachings. The one on the left was when I had an instant developing proc, and the one on the right was when I had multiple stacks of my blackout kick. That was pretty nice for me to show that. So I will actually I'll show you how those work when I'm talking about fist weaving a little later, and I'll show you those VCARs. In terms of macros, I want to say I really don't have any crazy macros on Mistweaver. I think just all standard macros. This is a macro that I've used ever since Mop. When I made this macro, it was very simple. I channeled a heal and I channeled a damage spell. The first thing I thought to myself was like, wow, that seems like penance, but it's 2 separate buttons. Is there a way I can make that button the same? And that's exactly what it does. If I target a friendly, it presses Soothing Mist, and if I target an enemy, it'll press Crackling Jade Lightning. Exact same concept as penance. Dispel Party 1, Dispel Party 2, Arena 1, I have Arena 1, 2, 3, Grapple Weapon. Dispel player self. I have a Soothing Mist myself, not super necessary, but yeah. Party 1, 2, Tiger's Lust. Player Tiger's Lust. I have Arena 1, 2, 3 in cap. This is actually, I use a lot of macros like this, help harm macros that allow me to, I guess, use the same keybind for a defensive and offensive spell. This is just my Enveloping Mist Spearhand Strike. When I play DPS, my number 4 is kick. When I play healer, my number 4 was Enveloping Mist. I'm like, you know what? Let's just make this happen and go ahead and make a macro so I can do both depending on who I'm targeting. Focus Spearhand Strike. This is actually a very helpful macro. If you swap between Revival and Restoral, it doesn't automatically switch it on your action bar, and yeah, that's kind of annoying. So this is actually a really nice macro to have if you're able to switch the talents there to allow you to. At Cursor Ring of Peace. And this is a detox provoke macro. So something like this is generally for what I would say battlegrounds, because I already have macros for dispelling party members, or you could like dispel pets or something. But if I'm targeting on an enemy, I provoke them. I don't even think I have this on my action bar. I'm gonna be honest with you. And if I'm targeting on a friendly, I can dispel them. Target arena pet 1, 2, 3 to try and avoid getting trapped. Like if you feel like a CC is coming, you could try and taunt a pet. This will taunt every pet, any pet in the arena. I had the same thing. I haven't really used this in too long, but I really liked this back in the day when I played Way of the Crane, because basically every single time you pressed RSK, or Rising Sun Kick, I don't even think it's on my action bar right now, but it probably should be, it taunted pets. So like you always wanted something to be next to you to hit you. So this was actually really nice because you're constantly taunting pets and you're getting targets near you to do damage and healing for. This is a Healing Sphere World Marker macro at Cursor. Healing Spheres I thought were going to be really sick this season, or sorry, this patch, because I thought they were going to just do a ton of healing. Turns out they're just not that good still. Yeah, it's just too slow. 1.5 seconds for healing. I've literally seen 100 O's in 1.5 seconds. So if you're like, someone's dying, you're like, I got you, bro, I'm throwing an orb at you, and they just die, they're like, yeah, I guess I don't got you. And that is actually it for macros. So yeah, nothing too crazy. Mistweavers are in a very awkward spot in terms of their stat priority and enchants, and it really kind of just depends on what spec you want to play. Fortunately, now there is no more conquest cap, so if you play a lot, you can actually have separate gear sets, and I actually think that playing Fistweaving and casted build is probably very useful in solo shuffle, maybe even rated threes, I guess, if you're playing, depending on what matchup you have. I think Fistweaving, like for example, I was Fistweaving and I got stuck in this caster lobby, and I didn't go caster spec, but basically I was playing against a mage, 2 warlocks, and a boomkin, and I would run in to try and do damage, polymorphed, seduced, axe tossed, cycloned, root beamed. And I literally couldn't do anything as Fistweaver. And I should have had another spec setup and another build setup, but it was absolutely terrible. I actually could not believe how bad Seduce countered me as a Fistweaver. I would run in, I'd pop my thing, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. Seduced. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, you know. All right, let's go. Polyed. Oh, okay. It's like, that was a rough one. For casted Mistweaver, you want Master Reverse. I'm not really sure what you want instead of Mastery, like if you're forced to take a piece without Mastery. I really don't think it matters between crit or haste, but personally, I go crit. I just feel like this class, like you're not really going to be able to get enough haste for it to be like super valuable as your secondary, you know, stat. So I just kind of go crit. For the Fistweaving build, you want to go haste. You want no master, you want to go haste, and then if you can't get haste, you want to go crit. So it's completely opposite of casted Mistweaver, which means that you need 2 completely different gear sets. And some of the gear for the Mistweaver, like the Bisque gear, is actually the Drakebreaker stuff, because there's not actually mastery off pieces. So like for example, I think these 3 pieces of Drakebreaker are actually the only pieces you can get with mastery. So that's something that you're going to have to farm. The water that you should be using, you can go buy from the auction house. It's called the Delicious Dragon Spittle. It is better than the vendor water. In terms of crafting gear, you obviously want the boots, and then you don't really need this helm. I'm pretty sure there's just a regular mastery helm. Yeah, you could just get it from Conquest. It's not a big deal. What I will say is that you could use, if you have your like concentrated primal focuses or whatever, or you know, the other version of them, you could use these to craft the ring from the auction house. Same way you craft the Infurious Foot Wraps, just find a work order, get, you know, 415, 418 ring that matches the secondary stat that you want. So for example, you get the Verse Mastery ones, you have 2 Verse Masteries. If you're playing Fistweaver, you can get the Haste ones, so you have 2 Haste rings. That's probably it for crafting gear. Tier gear, I believe that you don't want any of it. If you're playing Fistweaving, I just don't think it's necessary for you. Your 2 pieces Enveloping and Vivify healing, which is not necessary for you. But I mean, if you want it, if you do decide you want it for Fistweaving, which I don't think it's great, I mean, the shoulders look like a pretty decent piece. I have them because they have crit haste, which is what you want. Lower on the haste, which is your primary stat. And then the chest would also be an okay piece because it has crit verse. But yeah, I just don't think you need it. And then in terms of 2-piece for the casted version. Legs are great. Those are the stats that you want. I think you would follow that up with gloves, just because they have high mastery, and that's the that's the other stat that you want. So you'd probably go legs, gloves, and skip out on the other ones. And an alternative option is you could go high verse if you feel like verse is very important, which it is, and you can get the crit. But I personally like to go as much mastery as possible, but at the end of the day, it's probably not super relevant. And I don't think the 4-piece is worth it, because then I think you're getting minimal healing for a big stat loss. So we're already spec'd Mistweaver right now, so we could just go ahead and take a look at this build. I think that this fist-weaving build is probably about as good as it gets. If you're not fighting a team where you can remove diseases or poisons, you could go ahead and drop this point right here and put it into the shorter leg sweep cooldown. That's fine. I generally just like fighting using improved detox, because guess what? Rogues are in every single game I've ever played. And then if you are not running out of mana, I think that playing on this side of the build is better. If you are running out of mana, you'd probably spec into like Spirit of the Crane somehow, probably like this or something. I think what it would be is probably like this actually, and then you would take these 2 talent points. So this is the secondary option. You drop this, and you go Spirit of the Crane, you go Song of Chi-Ji. I mean, I guess you could go this. Oh no, I see. Yeah, you actually need Song of Chi-Ji to go Healing Elixir. I personally think that having the extra healing from Vivify as well as the secondary Renewing Mist charge is better, just so you can throw out some Renewing Mist if you need to, or if you pour it away, you can get like a bit of a bigger Vivify to top yourself. I don't really notice myself ooming, especially not in solo shuffle. Maybe in regular 3s, if you're fist weaving, that would be a bit of a better build. In terms of honor talents for Mistweaver, there's a lot of them, man. Mistweaver honor talents, I think, are one of the biggest challenge for the class, because every single honor talent is just so amazing. Like, obviously, Alpha Tiger is really good for fist weaving. It's all about getting as much damage out as possible in a short period of time. You love haste. Alpha Tiger is, like, I would say, like a mandatory talent. Peace Weaver is very good. I will say that you might not need it in a lot of games where you feel like you're not going to, if you're not going to get a second revival off, or you feel like you don't need the magic damage immunity following it up. And Short Cocoon is one of those that is also really, really good. Because I would say most of the time you probably should get a second life cocoon in solo shuffle, and especially in 3s. But at the same time, like if you're fighting like a warrior or a death knight, disarm might also be very valuable. So you just kind of have to figure out like what you would want to drop for like disarm, for example. So I personally feel like without eminence, I feel like I am just a sitting duck. So I really like having this, because if I get stunned, you know, the first thing I want to do is I get stunned, you know, I get storm bolted, I want to pour it out of the fight. And then I want to port back into the fight and start doing damage and, you know, kind of getting in there. So I really do think that Eminence is super good, but you can drop that if you're a man. You know, if you're fighting like a warrior or something, you want to use grapple weapon. I would say you don't really need any of the other stuff, personally. So I guess it's really just between grapple, chrysalis, or the Peace Weaver. So it's kind of just like a experience-based decision on that one. Do you think you're going to be the target? Do you think you're going to get a second life cocoon? Do you think you're going to get value out of disarm? Questions that you have to ask yourself. This is the build that I run. I think that some people personally don't think that close to heart is worth it. As a Mistweaver, I personally like it. You know, I Q melee cleave. Sometimes they run away. They get next to me. They take 8% more healing. It seems good. Some people I think would prefer to try and get like something like this, where if you play bounce back, you can maybe even continue to drop talent points if you really wanted to get it through over here, which I don't necessarily think is worth it. There's different variants you can run here. Like, I don't even run RSK with this build because I'm just never in range of anybody. But yeah, I do like this build. I mean, you always heal yourself for 8% more. It seems pretty nice. Moving over to the right side, I think Calming Coalescence is freaking insane, man. You could just get the absolute biggest life cocoons. This is currently the build that I would say I like the most. I don't really find myself ever pushing in for Song of Chi-Ji's. I do think that Zen Pulse is actually very, very good, especially into pet teams, but I just don't think it's like super consistent right now. If you did want to play Zen Pulse, you would probably just end up taking these 2 points out of Rapid Diffusion. Actually, just 1 point out of Rapid Diffusion. You'd probably take 1 point out of Rapid Diffusion. You put that point there, Zen Pulse. You put this point here into, you'd want to play Echoing Reverberation. then you would take 1 point out of that and put it back into Tia Serenity. So you have that option right there if you're fighting against pet teams. I will say personally, I'm not a big fan of Short Celestial. I don't think it's good. I think Shulan's Gift is bad, and I think that Rapid Diffusion is really good. You never want your Renewing Mist to fall, and I think you have to really play with this talent to kind of feel its power, but every single time that you press an Enveloping Mist, you get a Renewing Mist up on someone, and that just feels amazing. Like, you're Enveloping Mist as much as humanly possible. It just feels amazing to have that Renewing Mist proc. It feels really good. You have to try the talent in order to really feel the power. There is another build where, like, for example, you could try and drop, like, Rapid Diffusion and pick up Misty Peaks. I think you have to drop this talent. You can't drop this one, right? Yeah. So you could try and drop Rapid Diffusion and pick up Misty Peaks if this is something that you are interested in. It looks like it's only 1 point in Rapid Diffusion. This is not a bad option. What I will say is I personally feel like TF Serenity is amazing. It's going to be better next patch as well. And one of the reasons why I like it is because I generally find myself using Thunder Focus T for additional healing on Enveloping Mist. But what TF Serenity does is it gives us proc. So when I press it, for example, it's really good for mana efficiency, and it's really good for throughput. So we use TF Serenity here. Now we have 2 free Vivifies. Over the course of a game, that's really great for throughput, but what I really like TF Serenity for is when it gives you an additional charge of the Enveloping Mist, which gives you more healing, or gives you an additional charge of the Renewing Mist duration. And I think that one is very, very important, because then you're casually throwing out longer duration Renewing Mists, and that also feels very noticeable. When I unspec this talent, it's really noticeable to me personally that I have worse Renewing Mist uptime. So you'd be speccing out of Rapid Diffusion as well as Tea of Serenity, so I feel like my Renewing Mist uptime was very low. But I do think this build could be good, so it might be a little bit of a preference thing. I would say, you know, if you want to give it a try, go ahead and give it a try. But this is the build that I personally found that I've liked the most. But yeah, obviously you want Peaceful Mending, that's insane. And then Tear of Mourning is really good. So if you're not playing Tear of Mourning right now, I didn't realize how good Tear of Mourning was. But Tear of Mourning is super solid. It kind of meshes with your whole build. What I didn't realize is that it actually does like a heal immediately. Like you get the healing immediately from this. So for example, if I were to cast an Enveloping Mist right here, you see how you get the Gust of Mist followed by the 5k, 10k, 5k, 5k. Sure, that's your enveloping. Now, when you have a Renewing Mist up, you actually get an immediate heal from this Enveloping Mist. Right there. You get that 10k. It does this heal immediately. And your Enveloping Mist also heals all allies with the Renewing Mist for 20% of its healing. Like, it just does that right off the bat. So it is a bit more instant healing, and it just feels very good. Other stuff is just, I mean, kind of like standard. I think some people don't like Enveloping Breath. I personally think it's really good. I think it makes Yu'lon a bit of a better cooldown. Also, it should be better next patch. We'll talk about next patch in a couple seconds here. Resplendent Mist is amazing. Mastery is all you go for. Mending Proliferation is god tier. This is just making your HOTS throughout the game heal for more. It's going to be proc the entire game. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I just kind of think this is one of the better builds, if not the best build for the cast of Mistweaver. In terms of honor talents for this is once again, you're in just an impossible situation. I would say that these are my main talents that I play. Excuse me, I want to talk about Revival versus Restoral. So basically, Restoral does not remove magic debuffs. It does work with Peaceweaver. This is a very common misconception. It looks red right now. You could tell it works with Peaceweaver by the fact that it has a 1.5 minute cooldown right off the bat. If I were to unspec Peaceweaver, it would go to a 3-minute cooldown. So it does work with Peaceweaver. But yeah, this does not remove magic debuffs, but it's usable while stunned, and you still get that immunity. This does remove magic debuffs, and it's not usable while stunned. I would say most of the time, Restoral is going to be better unless you're playing as classes like Shadow Priest, UA Warlocks, maybe Boomkins, maybe Destrolocks, things like that, where you do want to remove their magic debuffs. but at the same time, you need to value whether or not using a heal while stunned is actually valuable. From my experience, Revival sounds really good into a Shadow Priest, right? Well, you think that because you remove all their buffs, but guess what? If you're playing Restoral and the priest is trying to do that stun, silence, fear combination on you, you can actually Revival or Restoral while stunned, immune the silence, get healing out while stunned, and then get away to be able to port. So Restoral, in my opinion, is just really good. You can literally immune incoming CC while being stunned. And that is, you know, priceless. I think that is very, very good. I would say that Revival is probably only super good into UA Warlocks, and Restoral is probably the move into most other situations just because it's usable while stunned. Then back to Honor Talents, I feel very, very naked when I'm not playing Port Stun. But I would say more times than not in Solo Shuffle, I kind of want to sneak in the Aura Mastery over the Port Stun. You could try and drop the Mistweaver if you want for Port Stun and Aura Mastery. I would personally probably say don't drop Chrysalis, but I mean, there's other Honor Talents that feel so good. You know, I would love to play Disarm. I would love to play Dematerialize. I even like Thunder Focus T, man. If you get Blade's Edge, you could really troll people with some knocks. This is really funny. It might even be worth doing just for your own enjoyment. You know, there's times where I'm fighting on Blade's Edge, and what this does is it makes your next Crackling Jade Lightning knock people, and it doesn't DR. So you can go ahead and Thunder Focus T, and then you could, let me just go over here real quick so we can have, you know, a little visual. They come up the ramp, you go ahead and zap them off. You have a second charge of Thunder Focus T. They come up the ramp again, you zap them off. You're out of Thunder Focus T charges. They're really annoyed right now. And then the icing on the cake is they finally get back up, and you just hit them with a little Ring of Peace. And that one really gets them. So I do think it's fun. If I queue any Mistweaver on Blade's Edge in the near future, I will do it just for, like I said, my own personal enjoyment. You know, we can get a nice little highlight out of it. But yeah, you really can't spec it very often because it's brutal. So I would say, like, these are probably the two that you need to switch between, Revival and Port Stun. I try and be a man and not play Port Stun, but it's a rough world out there for Mistweaver, so best of luck with that. In terms of healing rotation, it is very, very simple. You just want to keep renewing Mist up at all times, as much as humanly possible, and then you obviously have to Soothing Mist, followed by Envelops, and followed by Vivifies. You can use Expel Harm as like a little instant heal if you're on the move and you just want to get like a little bit of healing out. It doesn't do much. You could also use Expel Harm to heal you and a friendly for like a little bit of cleave healing. Let me just go ahead and see if I can heal someone here. So for example, Expel Harm is like, it's like okay healing. If I wanted to heal this person and me, it procs, I believe, Gust and Miss on both of us, and it does, like, you know, reasonable healing. It's worth using if you want to heal yourself and the target. And then also a friendly little trick, and let's see if I can get this guy to do it here. If you are channeling a Soothing Mist on someone and they run out of range or they run out of line of sight, the only heal that you can press on them is a Expel Harm. So let me see if I can do this here. So if this guy were to run out of range and you were still channeling the Soothing, or if they were running out of line of sight and you're still channeling the Soothing, you can actually always use Expel Harm for just a little bit of extra healing. Outside of that, you probably want to Thunder Focus on CD for big enveloping burst healing. So like right now, you can see if I come out of CC, you get the Renewing Mist up, you come out, you Soothing, and then you do the big enveloping burst healing there. With the Thunder Focus, I normally try and, you know, maybe knock out 2 of those because it's a little bit extra healing. And then since you're playing the Tia Serenity, you procced a free increased duration Vivify, which is great, or sorry, Renewing Mist, which is great, and then you have free Vivify, which is great. That's why I really like this talent. In terms of healing rotation, I think this has got to be one of the easiest healing rotations in the game. You only have a handful of buttons. I think I talked about all of them. We have some other cooldowns we could talk about. I personally play Chi Wave. I actually don't use it for healing. The only reason I use it is if I have a free global and I wanted to proc my 5% healing, my 5% damage buff. Let's see if I can heal someone here. Is this guy targetable? 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 I can't heal anyone. They're all horde. Alright, well, you get the picture here. So if I'll Chi Wave myself here, it'll bounce to an enemy and then it'll put up my 5% damage buff. That's basically the only reason I use it. It's pretty crap outside that. It does cost no mana, but it doesn't really do any healing, so it kind of stinks. And then obviously you want to keep statue down at all times. One thing that is very important is if the game shifts or you are out of line of sight, your statue will not heal. Your statue is very important. So for example, if you were to go over here and you're now behind a pillar, your statue is not going to be healing anymore, and this is something that even I mess up sometimes, is you have to reapply your statue. Like you would have to move your statue and set it up in a position where it's going to start healing again. So that is definitely a very important one. That's it. I mean, you got your soothing, you got your renewing, you got your enveloping, and that's kind of it. We'll talk about the damage rotation now, but you don't really do damage as the caster build, so we'll talk about the Fistweaving build. So I'm not actually spec'd into RSK as my caster build, but in terms of damage, you have Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick. Those are your 3 damaging abilities. You also technically have Crackle like Jade Lightning, but this thing does absolutely nothing. It opens up your healing tree, and it just doesn't do anything. So if you're Fistweaving, number 1 most important thing is to make sure you keep Ancient Teachings up, and I would definitely recommend getting a weak R for it. I will go ahead and show you mine right here. If you want to go ahead and copy it, pause for a second. This is my Ancient Teachings weak R. So what you see with this is that when you press Feline Stomp, you see the duration of your Ancient Teachings here, okay? And another thing that I will say is that you want to make sure that you always have your Ancient Teachings buffed. If this doesn't reset, you want to go ahead and get back in the Feline and then walk out of it. It actually, it lasts for 10 seconds now, so this one looks like a mega bug, and I'm not even in this one. But yeah, it lasts for 10 seconds now. So if you can, and the CD's not resetting, you want to make sure you go in for a second and reapply it, because what it's going to do is it's going to increase the chance that you can reset it, and it's also going to make it so your Blackout Kick cleaves, which is going to be a lot of your healing, and your Tiger Palm hits twice. And why that is important is because when you Tiger Palm and it hits twice, it's more healing, but it also gives you immediate 2 stacks of your Teachings of the Monastery, which means you double Blackout Kick, but then it cleaves, so it hits multiple people, and the Blackout Kicks reset your they reset your RSKs, so you RSK, then you Blackout Kick, and there's a high chance it resets, then you RSK, then you Tiger Palm, and then you Blackout Kick, and there's a high chance it resets, then you RSK, and then you Tiger Palm, and then you Blackout Kick, and yeah. So I'll actually talk about the rotation there in a second, but I'm just kind of talking about the Feline right now. So yeah, keep in mind that if you are playing the Fistweaving build and your Feline is on CD, you will have to Essence Font for 1 second and cancel it. You don't do nothing and wait for your Feline Stomp to reset. So general rotation here is you will RSK first, and you will actually most likely Thunder Focus T with your RSK. That way it gives you the short CD of it, so you get more of them. You will Rising Sun Kick. You will Tiger Palm to get buffs of your Teachings of the Monastery, and then you will Blackout Kick to reset your RSK. And it's really simple. It's just RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. So if I were healing as a Fistweaver here, this is what it would look like. I would probably roll in, get this down. I will Thunder Focus T for my first RSK. RSK, Tiger Palm. So in this one, you don't have to Blackout Kick because it's already a shorter CD from your thing. And then I would RSK again. And then I would Tiger Palm for a 3rd stack. And then, yeah. So right now we got a re-thing. Because it's fallen off, we re-Feline, RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. Didn't reset, so we have to do another Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. It did reset, so RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, re-Feline, RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. Didn't reset, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. Did reset, so Thunder Focus T, RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. Let's go ahead and re-Feline, RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, it reset, RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. It's very, very simple. The Teachings of the Monastery weak R I like to make sure that I have 2 buffs. Basically, it's not really worth, I don't know, maybe it's worth it. I just like seeing it, whatever. I'll show you that weak R right there, Teachings of the Monastery, if you want to pause and go ahead and take a look at that. And then the final one that I have is for when I use Invoke Chi-Ji the Red Crane. So you just go ahead and you run in and you Chi-Ji, and then you Feline, Thunder Focus T, RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. Guess what? You have a free enveloping. Now you envelop yourself, and then you, so RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. You have another enveloping. Go ahead and do that. And it's actually really good to use these envelopings because they extend the duration. So we can actually RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. Look how long this is going to last on us. Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. RSK, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. You can see that these enveloping mists actually last a really long time. So it's really, really nice to make sure that you're using those as an enveloping mist. But yeah, the damage rotation is also very simple. In terms of cooldown rotation, you really don't have much cooldown rotation. You have your 2 healing cooldowns, which is, Life Cocoon and Restoral, and there's really not much I could say about that. I would say that you don't really use either or in a specific order. You could use either first, depending on the situation. Just use them as you feel necessary. And then obviously you have your walls and your diffuse. I would personally use those very liberally, if that is the right word. Basically, when someone touches me, bro, I press Dampen Harm. I'm like, dude, get away from me. I take too much damage. If someone else is on me for too long, I'll probably just toss the wall. If I'm taking magic damage, you can toss the diffuse. You have a lot of CDs, but you're really fragile, so it doesn't really feel like they honestly do anything. So yeah, I mean, the cooldown rotation on this class is weird. Like, as I'm doing this guide, it's so strange. Like, when I think about other healers, I feel like I really do have this set way that I like to use cooldowns. But yeah, Mistweavers are just really light on cooldowns, man. It's actually crazy. This is all you have, I talk about Shaman. I did a guide on Shaman the other day. I'm like, all right, first you want to get the Earthen down, then you want to Nature Swiftness, and then you want to probably use your Ascendance, and then you have your Spirit Link, and then you can throw out your Arm Mastery. And this is just like, I Cocoon, I Revivaled. Good luck. Wow. It's really weird to just kind of take that in compared to other healers. Priest is like, hey, I buried you, I threw out a Rapture, I got a Pain Suppression here, I got a Pain Suppression there. Mistweaver is literally just like, hey, bro, you're shit out of luck, man. Have fun. I didn't actually talk about Enchants earlier, and I kind of talk about it with Stat Prio, but basically, if you're playing Caster, you want the... I'm actually using Verse, but you could use Mastery, and then you just kind of want the mana Enchants. Those are the most important things. And then Gems, you could do Mastery Verse or Verse Mastery. It doesn't really matter. And then same thing with the Fist Weaving. I would just do Haste Verse or Verse Haste. And then, you probably don't actually need the mana one. You could go Stam on Legs, and you could also probably go full Intellect on Chest as opposed to the Intellect one. Or sorry, as opposed to the mana one. So mana efficiency is something that really is kind of irrelevant right now. I really don't think you're going to have time to run out of mana. If you ran out of mana as a Mistweaver, give yourself a round of applause, because you lived far beyond to where the point of the game was going to allow you to do it. As Fist Weaving, mana efficiency, you can go Spirit of the Crane. As Caster, mana efficiency, I would say Mana Tea on cooldown. But what really allows you to be super mana efficient is kind of Thunder Focus Tea and Tea of Serenity, and you could use those for Vivifies all day if you really want. In terms of positioning, I mean, as a casted Mistweaver, you're probably going to try and stay out of the fray. You could try and recognize times where it's good for you to get that, snap CC that we talked about earlier, to try and help your team actually set up kills. You want to look for opportunities where maybe they're going offensive or they're setting up a kill with either stuns or crowd control, and you could follow that up. Other than that, you're probably going to be kind of staying out of it. You could maybe possibly roll in for a Touch of Death or something, try and, sneak in a kill. Definitely happens. But yeah, and then it's kind of interesting because it's positioning for a Fistweaver. You're literally in there all the time trying to spam damage. Someone said Life Cycles is better than Mana Tea. I personally like Mana Tea, and the only reason why is that I think Yu'lon is a pretty expensive button. It's 12,500, so I like to use Mana Tea into Yu'lon. I actually didn't really talk about Yu'lon here. I kind of forgot. I like to Yu'lon like first global, basically. As soon as the fight starts, I like to use Yu'lon. Because what it allows you to do is it allows you to get more healing out, but also for cheaper healing. So I normally like to Mana Tea first global and throw out Yu'lon. And then same with the other spec. I normally like to use Chi-Ji like really early as soon as I start Fist Weaving. And this reduces the cooldown of your enveloping, but it also makes your healing just do 10% more with enveloping up. And I think that's where the value in that talent comes from. Is it right here? Increase healing from the monk by 10%. So it feels pretty good to just get that out really early. So I like to Mana Tea and use Yu'lon immediately, and then I like to Mana Tea as soon as it comes off cooldown, and then it matches the Yu'lon cooldown again. If you want to play Life Cycles, it's absolutely fine. It could be better. I just personally like Mana Tea. utility, CC, being offensive. So, I mean, this is kind of like tied in. Your utility, which is your CC, and maybe even touch of death, and being offensive is totally hard to do on casted Mistweaver. You have to try and find those very, very rare opportunities where you cannot get punished for doing so. And you're kind of playing off your team by having that crowd control that, you know, is either coordinated in a rated match, or is kind of like going off your gut feeling in a shuffle. And then, you know, on the fist weaving side, you're always just full pedal to the metal. Dealing with kicks, this is the hardest thing to do as a Mistweaver, man. If people don't bite on kicks, it completely screws you, because you obviously can't sit here and just channel Soothing Mist. There's sometimes literally where I get forced in a position where I'm like, dude, they're not kicking me. Like, I have to revival or I have to cocoon, literally because you're at 50-60%, and if I get locked out, you're gonna die, and it's really not the best time to use those CDs. So yeah, I mean, that's why R Master is really good. 30-second cooldown, you just have to use that on CD, and then you want to try and make sure you're doing a really good job with the instant vivifies. That is also very, very helpful. Make sure you keep your statue channeling Soothing Mist at all times. It is a direct increase to your healing by 50% on your enveloping and your renewing. It procs your talent from Peaceful Mending, so it's really important, even if you just do like an immediate fake on your healing, to just reset this channel cast to make sure that your renewing mist is healing for 50% more. And if you do get an enveloping mist, that will also heal for 50% more. That's really important. But yeah, I mean, dealing with kicks on Mistweaver, it's really weird, because like Mistweaver is one of those things where normally I tell people, you know, like, yeah, you could fake early, then you could try and switch it up, and you could fake late, and then you could fake in the middle. You want to try and get an idea of how people kick, and you want to also not be predictable. But Mistweaver is really weird because people could just always CS fast. Like, no one, you're not going to sit here and channel Soothing Mist and be like, all right, you know, I'm going to fake late on this one, bro. Like, oh, gotcha. No. So that's kind of like the biggest fault of Mistweaver right now, and it is just tragic. So dealing with kicks is all about trying to, you know, I guess just win the mind game of just insta-faking and using your instant vivify. It's really important to use these instant vivifies, man. This is something that I felt like I wasn't doing immediately on Mistweaver, and it's really, really good to do. I can go ahead and show you this week real quick. But yeah, it's you get a lot of healing out of that. I might have already showed this one, but yeah, you can go ahead and pause, take a look at that one. How to kite well, survive. This is something that's really interesting, because as a healer that has so much healing, or excuse me, so much mobility, it feels like, it feels nothing. It feels nothing in the way that the game actually currently plays out, man. You know, everyone can match your mobility, and when they finally catch you, you are just dead. But, you know, obviously you have Port, you have 2 rolls, you have Tiger's Lust. One thing I will say is make sure you use ROP very well. For example, if I roll away from a warrior, the first thing I know they're going to do is charge me. You can go ahead and ROP right here, and it stops them right here, and it bounces them back a little bit. So then you can get the second charge, and then you can Tiger's Lust immediately. But I guess basically what I'm trying to say is you want to try and gap out your mobility by using spacers like in cap and leg sweep and ring of peace, and not trying to match them, you know, mobility for mobility. So for example, you know, really mobile class, Demon Hunter. If I roll, he's gonna Fell Rush. If I roll again, he's gonna Fell Blade. You know, if I Tiger's Lust, he's gonna Fell Rush, okay? So like an alternative would obviously be like roll, he gets to me, in cap, and then I try and get a little bit more space. You know what I mean? He gets to me, I roll, and then he gets to me, I leg sweep, and then you just kind of try and keep spacing it out with other things. You can't just use only mobility to beat mobility. You have to use your other things. And this is not even talking about Port. I mean, Port is a simple one, especially if you're playing Eminence, because you're just gonna have to Port when you get stunned. When they get back to you, you can Port away, and then that's how you get a really good cross, you know, if they decide to chase you there. One thing I will say is that it's actually very important to always use your second Port, even if you have to replace it. I'll talk about that in 18 seconds when this is off CD. But basically, when you use your second Port, it puts the Port cooldown to 30 seconds as opposed to the 45 seconds, because Eminence will put it at cooldown reduced by 15 seconds if you're not stunned. So using that second Port cooldown is really, really important. So for example, let's just say this is us behind the pillar. I Port behind the pillar and a stun. Your Port's not actually on CD yet, And when this goes away, it will be on CD at 45 seconds. So it's actually important to just redrop port and press port and use that second charge just so it goes on the 30-second CD. You want to make sure you get that 30-second CD and not the 45-second CD. But yeah, I mean, surviving and kiting, it's just try and space people out a little bit with, you know, Ring of Peace, Incap, Leg Sweep. You know, try and, you know, spread your mobility out. Definitely make sure you're using Tiger's Lust, because Tiger's Lust is a very, very valuable tool. Something that I wasn't used to immediately because I didn't really have Tiger's Lust for the last few expansions. And then on top of that, while you're kiting, make sure you're using these instant Vivifies. Make sure you're keeping Renewing Mist up. You could also use Expel Harm. Just a few ways that you have some instant healing while you're on the move. So instant Vivify, Expel Harm, Healing Elixirs are definitely going to be your friend. We kind of talked about offensive and defensive, I guess, like with being offensive. I mean, you're just always in a defensive position as casted Mistweaver unless you're going in for that CC and maybe a Touch of Death. Touch of Death is actually very valuable. Do not underestimate Touch of Death. It will get you wins. Like, if people are getting low and shuffle, you can roll in, go for the Touch of Death. It's not on global. It can get you wins. And then obviously as Fistweaver, you're always offensive. So in terms of compositions, I mean, this is a weird one. I'm going to be honest. I basically never see Mistweavers on ladder right now. If I do see Mistweavers on ladder, I've seen them playing like double wizards where they sit back and they just kind of PvE heal. And the benefit of that comp for Mistweaver is that you're very well protected. If people try and go you and attack you, you have 2 wizards to punish them. But on top of that, they kind of cover your biggest flaw by being 2 scary wizards. If people are just trying to interrupt you and you only, your 2 wizards in the triangle, Cloud9, you know, Chanimals, Wealthy Man, Cubsy, MLD position can just punish them immediately. So Mistweaver is pretty good at that PvE healing, but at the end of the day, it's still not as good as some of the other healers that could actually maybe do more besides sit back and PvE heal. And then I've also seen Windwalker DK Mistweaver, and why Mistweaver feels okay in that comp is that, you know, the Windwalker, let's just say, you know, this is the Windwalker, this is the DK. The DK grips in, the Windwalker wants to leg sweep, and then the Mistweaver just kind of cancels out the third person. So they have 2 people right here in the go. The Mistweaver will do the end cap, it'll do the sleep, it'll do the sweep, this guy really turned around like he had a problem. Yo, keep hammering your freaking shit, bro. All right, you don't want. Oh, dude, even the NPCs aren't afraid of Mistweaver. Okay, bro, get away from me. So yeah, you kind of are able to completely take that third player out of the game while these people try and kill the other 2. I mean, now I play Windwalker DK. I've been playing more with Brewmaster lately because I think Windwalker kind of sucks, but it doesn't really feel better than, you know, being a dragon or being a Disc Priest. Yeah. I will say, you know, someone in my chat said fist weaving is a meme. There's definitely a big flaw with fist weaving, and it's that it's not a smart heal. If I'm at 1% HP and someone's at 99% HP, your fist weaving heal could heal the person at 99% HP, and you can die. I think fist weaving, people were obviously very high rated with fist weaving. I think fist weaving is a bit of a, you know, a bit of a meme. I'm not a huge fan of it. Now, one thing I haven't talked about in this guide that I do want to talk about, and Mistweavers are getting buffed in every single patch, and every single time I'm like, wow, Mistweavers might actually be good now. Mistweavers might actually be good now. They are getting a really, really big buff next patch. So once again, they're getting 5% envelop healing buffed. But the biggest thing they are getting is TFT makes envelop instant. This is the root of all problems on Mistweaver. So right now, if you want to get an enveloping out, you channel Soothing, you press enveloping. Now, when you press Thunder Focus T, your envelop is instant. And that is insane. So right now, we Thunder Focus T, let's pretend here for a second, boom! This enveloping was instant cast. Now guess what? With that enveloping instant cast, you could follow that up with a Vivify instant cast. And the significance of that, as opposed to just using the Vivify without the envelop, is that enveloping actually increases your healing by 40%. So you can now do instant envelop into instant Vivify, and now also on top of that, you can spec into Zen Pulse, which gets benefited by having the enveloping missed up, and it's just insane. Like, the reason why Zen Pulse doesn't feel great right now as an instant is because you actually have to cast to get the enveloping up for Zen Pulse to feel good. When you use a Thunder Focus T into instant envelop, into instant Vivify, into instant Zen Pulse, there's actually a world where you are going to pump instant healing. It's going to be insane. Yeah, that's really good. And then on top of that, 100% healing increase. I can't type, don't worry about that. 100% healing increase on revival, which is huge. So there's two things that's happening here. If your instant healing is strong enough, you can drop Zen Focus Tea, and you can once again get Peace Weaver. Now, Revival is going to be stronger. Peace Weaver makes it a shorter CD. Your Revival is going to be a better cooldown. You're going to have more instant healing, and it's just going to feel like all around it can just be a really good spec with these couple changes. So hopefully that will put Mistweaver in a situation where it's on par with just other healers, and I think it can. I really believe it can do it. So to all those Mistweavers out there who want to, give up, there's one more chance, guys. There's one more chance before we go ahead and scrap this class. But I hope you guys enjoy the guide. I feel like this was one of, like I said, I feel like there's not too much to talk about Mistweaver, man. You're just kind of getting kicked on everything, dying. But, maybe you got some information out of this. I hope you guys enjoyed. And, yeah, good luck in 10.0.7 with all the Mistweavers out there.
That can never be.